Well, hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Johnny and you're watching Hillbilly Modeling. So this is going to be part 7 of our Standard B Liberty Series 2 World War I US Army Truck by ICM in 1/35th scale there. And what we're going to be doing in this video is finishing up all the little detail painting and everything that we need to do. And probably also put on some decals. If we get that far, I think we will. Which is going to get everything ready for the what will be part 8, the final video in the series, where we're going to do some weathering and, you know, wrap this thing up. So let's jump down to the bench and get all this little detail stuff taken care of so that we can move on. Now, if you saw the last video, part 5, you know that we went and dry fit everything back together to make sure we didn't have any issues and to make sure that our pre-shading and post-shading and all that stuff kind of melded and blended in well with one another. You know, it's always nice when your when your paint colors play well with one another. So yeah, that'll be the last time that we do our dry fitting. So we're taking it apart now so that we can continue working on it. And this will be the last time that we're going to have to do all this before we do our final assembly, and that'll be in part 8. Okay, so here's our cab assembly here. Now we do have these lights. Now these were acetylene powered gas lights, and to include that spotlight. And so those need to be painted. This here is part of my lantern collection. Now this, if you don't know, this is a coal miner's carbide lantern. This is what they used before electricity. And you'd put the carbide in the container here on the bottom. As you can see here, somebody tried to do a repair on it. So when I get around to refurbishing this, I'll have to do some soldering more than likely to fix it. But see, you can see we've got this nice reflector here, and out of the center is where the carbide gas would come out, and then it has also the little wheel there that's a striker for lighting the light, so you don't have to carry matches. And then on the back side there, we got a little cap with a spring inside it, and that's where you'd put your flint. Works, you know, like a Zippo lighter. If you guys know what a Zippo lighter is, if you're a non-smoker, maybe you'll know. Most of you probably do. So yeah, this is quite the improvement over the ones that you had to light with a match. And then of course we have the little lever here on top, which allows us to adjust the amount of carbide gas that's coming out of the lantern, so make it brighter or dimmer, I guess, as you need it. I don't know why you'd want to go dim, but I guess to conserve the amount of gas that you had in your carbide light. In order to produce that gas, you just added water to it. Now, there is a loop on the back that they clip to their hat. Yeah, so anyway, this reflector is the part that we're interested in because the lights on the front of our cab are supposed to have reflectors in them. So we're going to paint those up, and as well as that reflector that's in the spotlight. And to do that, we're going to be using this Model Master Chrome Silver. This has a really good chrome finish, and I really like this paint. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore. Just like just about anything that you really like, they quit making it. So I'm going to be very careful here and get down inside of our spotlight here, get that painted up. Now, if we do make a little bitty mistake there, it's early enough in the process that we can get out our olive green and touch it up, but that doesn't look too bad there. Yeah, that's all right. Just make sure you don't get too much paint down in there, because if you do, you can get the paint to kind of run a little bit, and you don't want that because it's not going to stay where you want it to. And here's our first little reflector there for the cab light there. and that's both of them painted up. Now, since we are using an enamel here, this is an enamel paint, I'm going to have to let that dry, so we'll set that aside. So next up, I'm going to do some cocktail stick painting, and we are just using the Panzer Gray, that dark Panzer Gray that we've been using throughout the project. We use this to prime the vehicle with, and I am using it now to kind of simulate little grommets there in the holes that we drilled into our canvas for our tie-down rope. So I just thought it would be a nice little detail to go ahead and add that in. And as you can see, that doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty good. So I'll have to finish up the rest of those eyelets on around the canvas. Well, now we can turn our attention to our seat cushions. It's important to know which one is the bottom, and it's the one that's kind of wedge-shaped here, as you can see there. So that's the actual seat, and then the back. So we need to understand that relationship there, because it does matter when we go to weather these cushions. We're going to put a little bit of wear on them there, and I'm just lining it up here to see where the driver would be sitting. Hopefully I get it like right behind the steering wheel. And here we have some Testors enamel. This is flat tan. We're going to be using this with a dry brush technique to add just a little bit of wear, and as if this black material here would be, let's say it's dyed leather, which I highly suspect it probably was. But, you know, with some wear and some cracking and everything, you'll be able to see a little bit of the base leather showing through. So we're going to hit the corners here because that's going to have the most wear on it. And once we get that, we're just going to use a stippling action here because there's really no detail on these cushions. There's very, very little. And because of that, we don't have anything to really catch with our dry brushing. So we're just going to kind of go in here and simulate where, say, 2 occupants of the cab would be sitting. So without too much trouble, we can slide our seat cushion into place there, which I thought I videoed, but I did not. Apparently, I forgot to press the go button. It happens. So anyway, not a hard task there. We'll just cement this in just right around the edges there, and it's kind of important to do that now before we start doing our clear coating. We just want to make sure we don't have any shiny spots in the end, so we're going to cement these in place to include the back there. And we'll get that affixed to the that back section there of the cab. And there we go. So if we need to make some adjustments, we can go ahead and do that. Okay, so I said we weren't going to do any more test fitting, and we're not test fitting. Well, I guess actually we kind of are test fitting. What I am doing, now this is kind of how my mind works. I am sticking the cab and the bed back onto the frame temporarily here so that we can figure out our next step, which is going to be our sponge chipping. We're going to do some sponge chipping, but what I want to look at here is like where the tire, you know, wheels on the truck go round and round. So where it's going to kick up, you know, rocks and the areas that are going to be impacted by that. So we know kind of where this chipping should be, so it kind of looks right. And as you can see up underneath the bed of the truck, kind of in line with the tires there on our duals. So that's the reason for that. So with that kind of ironed out, we're going to be using that same German Panzer Gray. I like to try to keep our paint selections down as much as possible. And then we do have our little torn sponge there for our sponge chipping. It's good to go ahead and to pull little pieces out of your sponge, whatever you're using, to do your sponge chipping so that it's an uneven surface there. And we're just going to start doing the chipping in the little areas there where it's most likely to take paint damage. So also, I'm going to be doing some chipping there on, say, the tops of the fenders, because that kind of breaks up that flat surface there a little bit, puts a little bit of that visual interest modelers like to talk about. so, so we're going to put a little bit of visual interest right there. Not heavy, extremely light. All right, we're not beating this up too bad here. So we're going to carry on with our chipping around the entire vehicle, and we're going to be looking at, real sharp corners and edges that kind of stick out a little bit. The things that are going to be most likely hit, like the grill guard and the top of the bumper and stuff like that. And I did go in and do some heavier chipping on that bumper. You can imagine that they probably use that bumper to push a lot of things. So we'll do some chipping there. And then on the bottom of our steps here and up on the sides a little bit, and then where the crew comes in and out of the truck. You can imagine they're dragging their rifle and whatever else equipment in and out of the cab. So we're going to have a little bit of chipping there. So it's kind of a systematic way and approach looking at where's the most likely places that, paint damage is going to occur. And there we have it, a little bit of chipping. Now we're going to continue the same theme on the bed of the truck. And since this is a water-based acrylic, we can always clean it up if we need to. And we need to do that right away with a wet cotton bud or Q-tip, whatever you prefer to call it, just to clean up big blobs that accidentally gets on there because either we didn't blot out enough, or I should say unload enough paint off of our sponge. And then we're just going to continue on doing our chipping there. And again, I'm getting some areas that I don't really like. So we'll clean them up. The thing is, if you don't clean it up right away, it's not coming off. So you do need to be careful with that. Now we're going to carry that same theme onto our wheels as well. And as you can see there, that's what we have going on. Now this is the dual wheels for the rear, and you don't want to forget your front wheels either. So the next part of our chipping, of course, there are going to be scratches. So we're not going to put a lot of scratches on, but we are going to put some. And here I'm just painting again with the toothpick. Just to get some scratch detail going on. Now some scratches are kind of like skips, it's not one solid line. That's the word I guess I'm looking for. So because things kind of like chatter across the surface, and I think that looks a bit more realistic. So that's kind of the technique that I'm using on this one. And it doesn't look too bad, so we'll do a few more scratches here and there. Now we'll turn our attention to our radiator. Now at the top of the radiator there, that top tank has a USA on it, and it was painted red, white, and blue. So I'm going to be using these water-based acrylics here. These are craft paints to paint that, and I'm just going to put a little blob, a drop of paint there in our little paint tray there, red, white, and blue, and double check to make sure I'm getting the sequence right. So the U, we're going to start with that, and we're going to paint it red, and then we're going to continue on. Now that red's a little bit funny thing about red. If you paint it over a real light color, it looks pink, and you need 2 or 3 coats. And on dark colors, it won't stand out unless you put on, you guessed it, 2 or 3 coats. So, and I am using, because this detail is so fine, I am using a toothpick to paint that on. And once we get enough red on there, we can go ahead with our white and paint our S. Now that toothpick allows me to really be precise where I'm putting that paint. Now, since our toothpick is made of wood, it does like to soak the paint up. So we have to go back and dip it into our little paint there quite often to make sure that we've got enough on there. We just don't want to put too much on there. And there we have it. We've got our blue, or our red, white, and blue USA all painted up there. It looks nice. That's probably the only color detail on the whole kit. Okay, so we're going to need just a little bit of green here. That's the olive green that we painted our vehicle in. And the reason why is because ICM neglected to put any kind of detail on our fire extinguisher, and I'm positive that it had at least one, if not two, straps that held it to the seat base inside the cab. So we're just going to go ahead and paint that in. Now, the actual fire extinguisher was black, so we're just going to leave that German dark gray, because that's that Panzer gray. That's our black in this build. So we're just going to leave that, and then we're just going to paint up these little straps here to simulate the method of fastening it. So there we go. We've got our straps all painted up. Now, they don't call for it, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this brass. That's Tester's Enamel flat brass to paint the handle up on our fire extinguisher. I imagine it was probably made of brass. I'm kind of guessing here. That's that artistic license that you hear a lot about. That's when you don't necessarily follow the instructions. So anyway, I thought that little detail right there would probably look pretty good. Give us a little bit something to look at there inside the cab. So that's our fire extinguisher. Now, once that all dries, we can go ahead and install that. And I'm just putting a couple of little dabs of cement here on the little locator holes that are right there on the front side of the lower box for the seat. And if I can locate those two little pins in there, that will put the fire extinguisher right where it's supposed to go. And I am having trouble because it is dark down inside there. You can't see it on the video, and I can just kind of like feel for it. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get it, though. Yeah, there, I think we got it. And there we go. So that's our little fire extinguisher. That's nice. Okay, well, let's move on. So next we'll put our steering wheel in. And I'm just going to use a little bit of Tamiya Extra Thin for that. And the reason why is that being a solvent-based paint, it will affect the paint that's already on the model. But more than that, it gives me a chance to actually move and straighten and make sure that we got our alignment correct for our steering wheel. And this steering wheel actually sits almost horizontal there, or pretty much is horizontal to the cab floor, and I need it to be able to move around so I can make those adjustments, whereas if I use CA glue, I have to be spot on. Next up, we do have two pedals that we need to put into our cab, but as you can imagine, there would be some wear on those, and we're going to use flat steel for that. And we're going to go back to dry brushing to affect that. So if you're new to modeling and you don't know about dry brushing, it's where you load up the paint on your brush and then you remove most of it so that it's a very, very light trace that you're actually leaving. That way you just catch the edges and maybe make some little spots here and there. As you can see, we still have a little bit of that dark base coat kind of showing through in places, which is kind of what we want. Now once that dries just a little bit, on the shaft section here of our pedal, normally in the cabs of these vehicles, I don't know that to be true on this truck, but like on your Model T, Ford and what have you, they would have like a piece of rubber or something that kept the cold air and stuff from coming up around the pedal, and that would kind of scrape that paint there and wear that down some. So I'm going to use the Tester's thick cement to locate our pedals, and it is a cement, it's not a solvent. So that'll give us time to make sure that both our pedals are in alignment, and also once it dries, it will securely hold those into place so we don't have to worry about our pedals falling out. And there's that first pedal. That's kind of a little tricky area to get down into. That would have been even harder, though, to try to do dry brushing down in there. It's the reason why I left those pedals off till now, so that I could get them painted up. And you do want to check your alignment to make sure that everything looks right. And it looks good, I think. I think we're all right. So with all of that painting done, we can go ahead and give everything a gloss acrylic varnish coat here. Now this is Vallejo's, and it is water-based, so it's easy cleanup and everything. I will mix it for my airbrush, and I'll be thinning it out with Vallejo's acrylic paint thinner. So let's take a look at our instructions here while we're letting that gloss coat completely dry. We have some decals to put on, and I kind of like right here where the decals, the truck number and everything is on the truck bed. I'm not sure I understand why there's a 2 and a 3 on the side of the truck. There's a 2 on the cab and a 3 on the toolbox. But, you know, I don't know that that's wrong. So I do like the big red 1 there. That's 1st Infantry Division, but I'm not sure that I really care for all that being on the canvas. And then there's no real decals except for this one on the front of the truck. And there is no placard in the kit for that. We'd have to make a placard if we want to put that plate on. So I think I'm going to go with these right here. And these are the decisions that you have to make, you know, whenever you're doing this. Now, if we go to the box and look at the decals they've got on there, there's the truck number that I intend to use. Now, that's on our decal sheet. And then it's got the United States Quartermaster Corps on the canvas, which I actually kind of like. So I think I'll do that instead of just putting USA. Now, this big number 2 here on the hood and down on the cab, those are not on our decal sheet. They might be in the decal sheet for the previous truck. This is like a second run. This is the Series 2. So our decals don't have that, so we won't be using that. And let's see, if you look at the side, they still got that that 2 and that 3 there. So I guess we'll just go ahead and do the 2 and 3. This is my decision-making process here. I think it'll look fine. So we will take a look at our decal sheet here and make sure. Now this is the truck number that I want to use, along with our USA. And then, of course, the United States Quartermaster Corps. And there's our 2 and our 3 right beside it for our cab and toolbox. Then, of course, we've got the front for our canvas. And that's really about it. That's what we're going to be using. So these are water slide decals, or decals, or transfers, whatever you prefer to call them. And I am cutting these free from that backing paper. And do make sure that you get rid of the little locating numbers before you place these into the water. You don't want those stuck underneath your decal when you go to slide it off. Now you can see this decal is made as 1, and I know for a fact that the USA is on a different board on the side of the truck than the actual truck number, which is on the board below it. So to keep from having to worry about that carrier film not settling down in the the seam between the two boards, we're just going to cut it into 2 decals there. That'll make assembling these decals, or I should say installing, installing these decals on our truck. So we do need water, and I do have my micro set, which we'll be using, and then the micro saw, which is used to soften the decal to get it to lay down if we need it. And these decals are quite thin. Now you are going to need a cotton bud, just like you saw there. And I am going to take and soak this for a few seconds here in our water. Now the water that I'm using is just lukewarm, and that helps to loosen up that adhesive that's on that backing paper there. It's holding our decal into place. Now that adhesive is very important because it is what allows the decal to stick to the model. So you don't want to soak the decal so long that you're removing all of that adhesive. So I am just going to lay in just a little bit of the micro set, which helps the decal to settle in and stick to the model. And then we're just going to pull that decal out of the water there. And I do need to check it and see if it's ready to move, and it doesn't really seem like it's wanting to go. So we'll just add water back to it, and I'll just lay it down right there. We'll give that just a few more seconds there until that adhesive starts to release. Now once it does, the decal should start to move. It still looks a little... Is it going to move? Yes. Okay, it's moving. Now, you know for a fact that you didn't soak this too long when you can feel that sliminess that's on that paper. That sliminess is that adhesive, and we're going to kind of we don't want to wash all that away. We need that adhesive. Now it's always preferable that you put the decal straight on to exactly where it needs to go. That rarely ever happens. So here I'm trying to move it a little bit, and it doesn't really want to slide for me. So we'll just take a little bit of water here and kind of moisten up around the edges there, kind of give that decal somewhere to slide to, and then we can make our adjustments. Now once our decal is right where we want it, we can take and remove the excess water and micro set that's underneath the decal there, and I'm very carefully and lightly rolling out across the top of the decal, and there we go. And that rolling out will push any air that's underneath it and help press the decal down to the paint. And we don't want any air underneath it because that will cause silvering, and we don't want any silvering. Silvering's bad. So that looks pretty good, and these decals are really thin, so it shouldn't be we shouldn't get any silvering. So here we go. That's all of our decals on the bed, and I did put the number 3 on the toolbox, and I'm assuming that the left and right toolbox had the same number. So, and then on the cab there's a number 2. So we did put the 2s on, and that looks good. So we're all right there. And then, of course, we've got our canvas, and there we are with our decal right on our canvas. And we got the front also. Now, the reason why they put front on the canvas there is so that the soldiers knew when they went to install the canvas which end went forward. Now, I suggest you let these decals dry overnight, and then we'll go ahead and seal those in with our gloss acrylic varnish there. That'll do a couple of things for us. It helps seals the edges of that decal and protects it from the next step in the process. All right, so yeah, we managed to get our chrome silver painted onto the reflectors there for all of our lights, because these were acetylene powered lights, gas lights. So we got that all in. We got some decals on the cab there. Also, we got our USA painted up there on our radiator, and we also put our fan shroud on. So that's all good. And of course, we got our decals on onto the bed of the truck, as well as right there on our canvas. And as you can see, I just did the spot area there where the decal needed to go. We'll see how that works out when we get our flat coat on. So yeah, decals are all sealed in, and we're going to let that dry really well before we move on to the next step, which is going to be in the next video. So that pretty much wraps up all the little stuff there. Oh, and our fire extinguisher, we painted that up too. So like I say, that wraps up everything and gets us where we can do our panel liner. Yeah. So, all right, so special thanks to all my subscribers. Because of you guys, I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you are new to the channel and not a subscriber, I hope today I earned your subscription. So until I see you guys again next Friday, you guys stay safe.